If you're a woman who is always looking for signs or waiting for signs before they do things, constantly waiting to be ready, constantly waiting for one light bulb moment before they take important steps, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Dora. Welcome to my Space to Think, where we unlearn things together. So if you're somewhere in the middle of figuring things out, this channel is where you're supposed to be. I want to talk about these signs we're always looking for, or should I call them signals that we are always waiting for before we actually take important steps in our lives. At some point, most of us have used phrases like, I'm just waiting for a sign, oh, I'll know when I'm ready, I'm just waiting for a confirmation. And when you say it, it sounds like something reasonable, right? Because, if you say something like that, you seem like a person who is usually very, well prepared, someone who has a process, someone who doesn't rush into things. You sound trustworthy and very grounded. But there's a difference between a person who likes to be prepared and a person who is using the idea of a sign to avoid doing the thing that they are scared of doing. And I think if we're being honest, most of the time when we say we're waiting for a sign or we just need a confirmation, we need someone to just tell us that this is the right move, we already know. We already know what to do. Yeah, we do. Think about the last time you asked for a sign about something, anything, a relationship, a job, a big move to a different city, a conversation that you are supposed to have. When you think back to that moment, when you asked for a sign, did you actually not know what you wanted? Or did you actually know, but you were just so scared that you did not want to be the one who would be responsible for the choice? Because waiting for a sign is sometimes, not always, sometimes a very sophisticated way of outsourcing a decision you are not yet willing to own. And I understand it because, decisions have consequences. When something goes wrong, it is much easier to handle the disappointment if you can say, I did it because I felt like I was supposed to do it. I felt led. I had a sign. Because it creates some distance between you and the outcome, and that distance feels like some sort of protection. But just think about that kind of protection even. Is it really protection? Is it because it looks like another way of you not fully standing behind your own decisions? I don't know what it's protecting you from. Think of a version of your life where you are always waiting, always gathering more information, always waiting for confirmation. But things are happening around you without you, to you, because you're not doing anything. You keep waiting to be sure before you make a move. Think about the people we know who are in situations right now that are not working. Maybe it's a relationship that has run its course, or a job that is draining them, or a friendship that is no longer mutual. They are in those unpleasant situations and they are not leaving. Not because they cannot see the real issue. They know, they can see the problems. In fact, they have constant conversations about the issues. But they're not leaving because they are waiting for someone or something else to make the decision for them. They want the relationship to get so bad that, a breakup is justified, or they want the other person in the relationship to get really fed up and just leave the relationship first so they don't have to deal with the burden of, being the one who broke the relationship. They want the job to fire them so they don't have to quit. They want the friendship to just fade away without any conversation or confrontation. It's just fade away without anyone having to acknowledge what's happening or just call it out. Because if something external forces the decision, then they didn't really choose, right? Because if they didn't choose, they cannot be blamed. And if they can't be blamed, it hurts less, right? Because it was not in their power, right? I understand that logical. I understand it very well, but it is still avoidance. Now, I'm not saying signs are not real. I'm not saying your intuition is always wrong. What I'm questioning is the pattern. The habit of looking for signs, asking for signs where we already have all the information we need. Of always looking for signs where what we're looking for is not clarity but permission. Who exactly are you waiting to get this permission from? Do you know? For me, when I genuinely don't know something, when I am genuinely looking for something, I'm not sitting around waiting for signs. I'm always busy thinking, observing. I'm in the process doing what I need to do to get the answers I'm looking for, to get the results I want. So, sign seeking arrives for me when I've already done the work. I've already done the thinking. I know what the answer is. So, if I'm looking for a sign, it means that thing requires me to do something I don't want to do. It means I'm very uncomfortable with the answer I have found. It means that answer is going to take something from me that I do not want to let go. And so asking for a sign at that time is just me stalling. I'm looking to buy more time, So I use an excuse. I use an explanation like, oh, I'm waiting for a sign because, it feels grown, it feels spiritual, it feels, grounded. Where really what I'm saying is, I'm not doing that thing. I'm buying time because I'm afraid. I'm buying time because I'm scared. I don't want to do that part. It's all fair. And you know what's crazy? Sometimes the fear is not because we are worried that that thing will not work. Sometimes we are scared that it will work and work really well. So we say we're waiting for a sign, but no, we're not. We're just stalling because that thing will work and it will work so well that it will make our lives difficult. Because sometimes what we need to do is to make a decision that will benefit us in the long run. But before we get to that part where we, reap the benefits, we need to go through a very difficult period, a very hard time. And so we are stalling because of that hard time. We know that the decision is good for us in the long run, but we are just doing everything we can do so we can not feel the pain that has to come before the joy. Do you know what I mean? One time I was praying to God and I was saying, God, give me a sign, show me, give me clarity. I need to know, show me what to do. And looking back, I knew what to do. I had that clarity. I knew the decision I had to make. But so I just kept disturbing God because I was buying time. I knew the decision I was supposed to take, but I knew that that decision would cost me something. So I was telling God that, oh, give me a sign because I'm hoping that He will tell me something else, something different from what I already know. I was trying to escape the clarity that I already have by trying to tell God to give me a sign just in case He will show me something different that will not be as painful as this other sign that I have gotten, this clarity, this information I already have. Do you see? But of course, God did not tell me anything. In fact, I was ignored. So I had to sit down one day and ask myself, I was like, Dora, what are you really waiting for? What is going on? Like, what is the major reason? And so when I asked myself that question, I realized that the answer came again and I kept making more excuses, trying to shift it, procrastinate and give myself other reasons. And so that's when I realized that it wasn't really about science. It was about honesty and readiness. And science cannot give you that. Because readiness does not come from the decision. It does not come from science or whatever. Readiness comes while you're doing the thing. You become ready in the doing of that thing. We don't wake up excellence, do we? Excellence is built in the doing. It's built in the proof that you are capable of way more than you actually think. And this is something I've had to learn more than once, which tells me that it is not a habit that sticks easily because as humans, we're always trying to know what the end goal is before we begin. We're always trying to know the result before we even start. With a lot of things in life, you cannot know what the end is before you actually start. And so all of these things, all of these strategies we come up with in order to guarantee a certain end, including sign seeking, is just a way of controlling some of the things that are genuinely not controllable. Are there certain situations where you actually require signs and where you need to be prepared and really, really ready before you move? Of course, there are certain serious situations where you need to be ready because doing anything prematurely could cause a lot of damage. So do you know the one you're doing? Because they're quite similar. They both feel like patience. Difference is one is patience because they are in a process and that process requires time and requires them to wait. And the other one is also patient, but they're acting this patience out because They're afraid of what it will cost them to actually make the move. And nobody can tell the difference for you. You are the only one who knows the difference because you're the only one living your life. We are also living in a world right now where everything can be validated, where you could literally just get online and then you see someone who has the same experience as you and they've actually decided not to do anything and they ended up well, or they decided to, they decided to follow the exact thing you're doing right now and they has ended really well. So it validates your excuse. I mean, you can find a post, a video, a quote that would validate what you're doing right now, that will confirm the action you've chosen. And while sometimes some of these things are really helpful, sometimes we are actually the one hunting for this validation, hunting for something to tell us that it is okay for us to keep hurting ourselves, that it's okay for us to keep delaying the inevitable. And so when you keep scrolling and looking for something to validate what you're doing, you finally see that post and you go, yes, the universe agrees with me. The universe has shown me a sign. It's not the universe. It's not a sign. No. It's confirmation bias. You are still wrong. So what do? First, you should start by asking yourself important questions like, what does my actual lived experience tell me? What do the patterns say? What am I saying? How does my body feel? Because when we actually stop to ask ourselves these important questions and we try to remove the fear of what we think our decision will cost us, you realize that you actually had the answer. You realize that you have all the information you need. You realize that the answer is not very, very far as far as you thought it was. So why would you ask for permission when you genuinely know the answer? Why would you need something outside to permit you to do something you already know inside of you? Do you see what I'm saying? No sign will ever be enough if you don't trust yourself. No sign will ever be enough if you don't trust what is inside of you. Mostly because if the sign comes, you will actually doubt it. You will not believe it. You will start asking yourself questions like, oh, am I imagining things? Or am I wrong? Am I sure I'm not projecting into this situation? Is this really what I should be doing? It's a lack of trust. So the only way to get rid of your constant need to wait for signs and keep waiting for permission and all of that from external forces is to actually learn to trust yourself. To look at yourself and say, I know who I am, I know what I want, and I'm going to do this thing, whether I'm right or wrong. I have made the decision to get it done. And then you go ahead and do it without waiting for anyone to tell you, oh, just go and try. Trust is literally the only thing that can stop you from constantly waiting for external signs. And I know it's really, really hard. I know it's not as easy as I say because a lot of us were not even taught to trust ourselves. We were taught to actually defer, ask for permission, constantly seek validation before we move forward. Get someone to let you know whether what you're doing is right or wrong. So you do not even have a lot of practice of actually trusting your own mind and your voice. I get it. If you've never had a lot of situations where you had to practice trusting yourself and actually working based on trust yourself, learning how to do it right now is going to feel reckless or arrogant. But let me tell you something. The people who have built lives that they actually like, I'm not talking about perfect lives or easy lives. They've actually come together and they built lives that they actually wanted for themselves. They didn't build that life by waiting for the universe or anyone to give them permission to actually do the things they needed to do. There are people who trust themselves and knew what they wanted. They knew their goals and they just went ahead and believed in their own selves, in their own ability, without waiting for anybody or any sign to say, oh, the sky is bright today, this is the day you do it. Or no, wait 3 months later where all the fishes are out of the sea or where things that we usually just see as signs. They didn't do all of that. They worked based on their own belief and trust in themselves. They just moved. And they are regular human beings like us, regular imperfect people who have fears, wants, who cry, who feel pain, who feel love. They are the same human beings like us. And I'm sure they made mistakes in the process. I'm sure they fell off and they had to pick themselves up again. They probably learned different lessons that they actually applied further into their journey. They have learned things that they would never have learned if they were waiting. They've learned things that they can only learn through moving. If you're in your waiting season right now and you're just sitting and waiting for the sign before making that big decision, you probably need to sit down and actually ask yourself the real reason why you're waiting. Ask yourself, like, What exactly am I doing? What exactly am I waiting for? What do I need to actually move forward? What is the real reason why I am not moving forward? What is the real reason why I am not taking this step? Are you waiting for a sign or you're just scared? Maybe you're truly waiting for clarity. Maybe you're just too afraid to take the next step. These are not weaknesses. These are just honest conversations we need to be having with ourselves so that we can be able to stop ourselves from remaining in the same position forever. So we can be able to unlearn these patterns that are keeping us stuck in our lives. The truth about why you are not moving, why you're refusing to take the steps you're supposed to take, is so much better than the excuse of waiting for signs. One is so actionable, the other one is just no positive results from the other one. Sorry. You don't need more signs. You just need to trust what you already know. And that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more. See you in the next video.